Here's an interesting thesis. Spoken English and written English are becoming more similar over time. In some languages, speaking language and written language are very different. There are languages like Arabic where the written language and the spoken language are not similar at all, or at least have great differences. The spoken language has a series of dialects spoken all over the Middle East, and the written language is very, very different. But even if you look at European languages, French and German have written language and spoken language that are very different. Some of them, particularly French, has many, many degrees of formality even within speaking. We don't see the same in English. There is a difference between the language that you would use formally to write and the language that you would use informally to speak, but these differences are becoming smaller over time. For example, very formal, rare words like arbeit were words that maybe sounded very strange if you would use them in speech a few years ago. Now it's normal. So arbeit, despite the fact, is something that I can see also in spoken language, especially by authors that or speakers that want to appear very knowledgeable. At the same time, you see the opposite phenomena. Words that were completely unacceptable in writing are now considered something that gives a little bit of spice to the writing. So sometimes you would even see word of informal speech like jibe, word like ain't, for example. So is not would be used in writing. And sometimes it will be used in a way that maybe look deliberately special or ironic, but sometimes it would be used in a way that looks completely normal. And that's exactly the phenomenon that we see. The spoken language is becoming more like the written language, and the written language is becoming more like the spoken language. My name is Associate Professor Shai Lotan. I teach international law and other subjects at the University of Copenhagen Faculty of Law, and this series of lectures is designed to help you improve your English. That is my thesis, that spoken English and written English are becoming more similar. I don't have an empirical research to support that. It's just an observation as somebody that is constantly exposed to written English and spoken English at a high level. Now, the question that I can ask myself is why this is happening. Why is spoken English becoming more like written English and written English is becoming more like spoken English? And I think I have a hypothesis about why this is happening. English is an international language. So every person that wants to build an international career, especially in academia or in anything connected to publishing or anything that involves international clients, has to learn English and to know how to use it well. That's why I started this channel, to help multilinguals improve their English. Now, these people are equipped sometimes with a very, very large vocabulary. They know English well, they just don't know how to use it in exactly the way that looks like what the locals expect. So, for example, if you would come to the US and the basic education that you got from English, the way you started was from reading Shakespeare, just like I did. I started reading my English education by reading deeply Shakespeare's plays. I may know more words than even local Americans, and I may know words that are sophisticated, but I don't know how to use them in a proper way. And that's why I would use words that are more appropriate for writing, especially sophisticated, rare words that maybe are obsolete or not considered day-to-day words in spoken language, and I would use them as I would be speaking. Now, it's not just one person doing that. You have a whole group of intellectuals that are continuously using English and using words that they learn from reading a lot. Because this is exactly the group that is the most knowledgeable and that have the largest vocabulary, but they don't know how to use it so convincingly. And that's exactly why we would see, I think, spoken language becoming more like written language because of this intelligentsia. Because of this group of intellectuals that are coming from all over the world, they know a lot of words that they read, they try to integrate them into speech. At first, it sounds a bit strange. It sounds like they don't know how to speak English like the locals, but if there's enough people doing that, and these people are successful and prestigious, then the change that will happen would be that this will be considered part of what written language, spoken language should be. So if thousands of intellectuals are using words like albeit that they read in their speaking, locals hear that. When they hear it the first time, it sounds strange. When they're used to hearing that, they repeat that, and that's exactly how the language develops. So being an international language with a lot of intellectuals who are multilinguals continuously pushes words from the written English towards the spoken English. The opposite phenomena, moving from speech to writing, is also happening. And here I think the main reason is Hollywood and the film industry and the television industry that is very much using English. Most of it is in America, of course. And what you see there is situations where people would use certain words, and intellectuals abroad as well as locals would hear these words and consider them to be prestigious enough to write. So if, for example, you watch a series like Seinfeld from the 90s, so you could feel very comfortable quoting or paraphrasing a phrase from Seinfeld in your writing, because this is considered to be good English. It's considered to be something that everybody knows, that everybody accepts. So what you would see is that through the film industry that is primarily in English, words and phrases are migrating from spoken English to written English. Now, when you have both of these happening together, you have the written English getting closer to spoken English, and the spoken English getting closer to written English. They are becoming very much the same. And that's exactly the phenomena that I want you to be aware of. Now, you may ask, why do I want you to be aware of this phenomena? Why is it so important to understand that written English and spoken English are becoming closer together? And the answer is twofold. First, as a writer and as a speaker, I want you to focus less on register, so how formal the word sounds, and I want you to focus more on clarity and a lot of other things that we will discuss. So presentation skills, if you are presenting, writing, we will try to improve your writing in other ways, but don't obsess so much about sounding formal. This is usually a mistake that beginners make. They are trying to sound very, very formal, and they end up using these constructions that are really not necessary. A series of sentences that are just not helping the writing. So instead of just saying what you want to say, you would start by saying something like, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you, and so on. Words and sentences that are not necessary. Try to cut them off. Don't focus on trying to be so formal and impressive. I tell all my students, when I'm teaching you the course that is called Legal English, I mostly teach you how to write and read in English, because you don't have to prove to the reader that you are a lawyer by writing in a way that is more lawyerly. The best lawyers write in a way that is most similar to regular speech and writing. They write in clear phrases, they say what they want to say, and they don't try to sound impressive or to mimic some certain style. Don't focus on register, and the fact that English is becoming more and more easy to use, simple, and similar between spoken English language, spoken and written language, will work to your advantage. So don't worry so much about register, worry about other things. You have to write clearly, simply, remove all the clutter, take things that are not necessarily out, and this will make you a better writer and a better speaker. The second thing that you should focus on is remember that if you want to become a great writer, given that speaking is so similar to writing today, so you should invest a lot of time in speaking and in listening, particularly in speaking, because that's the way you train the best. But also in listening, if you want to listen to movies, if you want to listen to talks of people that are good speakers, do that. But first and foremost, focus on speaking. This will make you a better writer, because you will find your own voice and the way you should use the words. So if you want to be a writer, speak and listen. If you want to be a good speaker, you should focus your energy also on writing and on reading, because you learn words from reading, especially if you're checking the dictionary, and if you follow the other tips that I'm speaking about here, you will build your vocabulary. As you write, you will learn how to construct sentences in an environment that is much more focused on excellence, because you can really focus on try to improve your sentences consciously and systematically until they are perfect. Being a great writer will make you a better speaker, because it's the same type of language. And the most important thing of all is to make you a better thinker. Returning to what I always say, writing is thinking. When you are writing, you are exercising your thought in a very systematic way. You need to do the same as you're speaking. And if you are continuously practicing writing regularly and reading, you will also become a better speaker. These are the reasons why you need to embrace this phenomena of written English and spoken English becoming practically the same, and use it to your advantage.